Hey guys, what's up? Public here, back with another video, and today I want to talk about nameplate settings as a Shadow Priest, specifically how I set up Plater. I'm going to go over kind of some of the big parts of what I use Plater for and kind of what it can help you do as a Shadow Priest. A lot of people that are complaining about, it can be difficult to dot mobs or figure out how to set up a pull. The best place to start, in my opinion, is making sure your nameplate settings are working for you and making things easier for you. So I'm going to show you what I've done in my profile. I'm going to kind of go through a bit of like the top things. If you actually want to use my profile, it is linked in the description below, as well as a couple other plugins if you just want to use those instead. But without further ado, let's dive in. All right, so first things first, if you're not familiar, Plater is a nameplate add-on that you can use. It's the thing that's actually controlling these nameplates here that are above enemies, and it lets you kind of do more or less whatever you want. It's basically like WeCore is, but for nameplates. There are so many options that you can use here with changing colors, font, bar size, how far spread they are, all that kind of stuff. And it really lets you control, really to like a fine degree, what you want things to look like. And you can also be specific for friendly nameplates as well as enemy nameplates. All of that config is inside of /plater. So some people will choose other ones like KUI nameplates, or I think tidy plates is one. Personally speaking, I like Plater a lot, specifically because it's so easily configurable. There's just so much in here that you can change, as well as a lot of community plugins that you can install and scripts that you can download to make things just easier to play with. So let's kind of dive into what I use it for. All right, so the reason I'm an Algothar is to show you the main reason that I use Plater is to actually make pulls like this more manageable. So you can see right off the bat, things look a little different than what you probably see normally. Some mobs are highlighted in red, just kind of the normal color, and other mobs actually have grayed out. So one of the things you can do with Plater, aside from changing, how things look, is actually color code certain mobs depending on what you're doing. So what I actually do by default is, if I don't care about a plate, I'll actually go into Plater and add it to more or less an ignore list, where I still want to see that the plate's there, but I change the color so that it's not taking up room on my screen. So this is really important when you're doing these really big pulls in Academy specifically, because there are so many nameplates in this first pull. I want the ones that I care about to stand out. So in this case, I actually took these Hungry Lashers here. See, if we pull all of this stuff, you can see, man, it's so hard to see things normally, but because I just have the elites that I care about, I can kind of more clearly pick those out. Now, the other thing that you notice is when I actually have things dotted, the color changes again. So what I'm actually doing in addition to that, as kind of an override rule, is changing the nameplate based on my vampiric touch dot. This is really useful because if I'm doing a pull and my dots actually fall off on a mob or something like that, and the color changes back to red. So it gives me a very clear indication that, oh, I need to redot that enemy. It will still change the color of these mobs that are kind of lower priority. I just do that as like a rule to change that. But if you want to change the priority, you absolutely can. And Plater lets you do all of that. So if I go inside of Plater here, there is an NPC colors and names section. So I have most of this turned off by default, although you can certainly turn more on if you'd like. And I've actually called out these Hungry Lashers and these Lashers here and changed the color to be light gray. There are plenty of other things you can do. You can also hide these nameplates if you want. This is just something that I do specifically. And then inside the modding and scripting section, you can do lots of different things. The only one that I use right now is the execute range color change. And then in terms of scripts is what I use for the vampiric touch script. So this is the one that I think is really beneficial for most Shadow Priests to have. You can see that she says agony. I think I ripped this out of a Warlock package. But all this is doing is simply changing the nameplate color when I have vampiric touch on a mob to make it clearly easy to see. Now you do want to be careful when you're changing colors. If you have too many color changing scripts, you have to kind of choose which one's more important for you. So there are plenty of other mod packs out there that change colors for different reasons, but as a Shadow Priest, I find that it's most helpful to use colors for vampiric touch, and then it's like a secondary reason I filter out all these mobs that I don't care about. All right, so the next thing that I actually want to show, went back to the training dummies here to make it more clear, is the other thing when you're pulling a large group of mobs, it can be hard to identify and pick out mobs. Even if you have the color changing stuff, which again, if you didn't see that, if I have a mob dotted, the color changes. This is all well and good, but when you have a bunch of nameplates and the dots showing above them, this can be kind of hard to see or to notice when you have 10, 20 mobs, whatever else it is. Now you can kind of move your camera around, which you'll probably see a lot of Shadow Priests doing to get a better angle on the nameplates. That is one way to do it. The other thing to also try within Plater is to change how things are spread on the nameplates. Now again, this is all personal preference and what you find useful for you. There's lots of different options that you can change. You can actually change the height of the bar. So if you wanted to actually make them smaller, if we go to the enemy NPC stuff, and there's all of these sizes here, so we can actually lower the size of the health bar here. And so if we, oops, wrong, I think is it this one up here? So I can actually lower the size of this, and you can actually then fit a bit more real estate on the screen, especially if you have debuffs on them and stuff. I prefer to keep mine at 11. It's just what has worked for me. You can also lower how big the actual debuff tracking is on enemies as well. So if you'd like your dots to be a bit smaller or to the side or whatever else, you can adjust that as well in this config. Just kind of depends on what you're looking for. So all that's in kind of all of your buff settings here. So you can change the anchors, how large they are, how they are spaced, all that kind of stuff can be changed in here. You can see, gives you a little bit of a demo here. So if you want to actually space them out a bit more, you could do that. Or if you just leave it set as default there, just to give a bit more breadth. So kind of up to you on what you think is most useful. The other thing you can change inside of general is the actual spacing of these. So by default, you know, if you're using overlapping or stacking nameplates, there's actually a combat or like a variable inside the game where you can change the spread here, which is actually how close or how tightly clumped these are together. Inside of general settings, there's this nameplate overlap that you can adjust. And here you can actually make this skinnier and clamp these closer together. Now obviously you got to be careful because this gets a little muddy if you're depending on your angle here. So you want to be careful how much you adjust this, but it can help you fit more of them on the screen. So if you're seeing them like the nameplates flying off because you have so many, you can consider lowering your nameplate overlap to help make that clearer for you. I like to leave mine at 1 just to be very clear when I have things here. But these are all kinds of settings that you can tweak to make it easier to pinpoint different enemies inside of combat. All right, so that's all I have to show in this video. Hopefully this was helpful. I know it's kind of short, but I just wanted to kind of give these tips because I think if you're just starting out playing Shadow, this is super important to get started. But let me know what other things you guys have tried that you think is helpful for others to check out in the comments below. And like I said, if you want my profile or some of the scripts, they are also linked in the description. Feel free to try them out, tweak them. You know, it's not perfect by any means, but it works for me. So you want to find out what works best for you when you're playing Shadow. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.